We've talked about dreams under management, goals under management, and now it's time for humans under management. More specifically, the virtual Humans Under Management Conference happening on the 8th of September with incredible speakers from around the world. I'm thrilled to be part of this event for those seeking better client outcomes, which, as a listener of the Innovating Advice Show, I know includes you, and am impressed by how affordable this event is for advisors and planners everywhere. We're talking about the cost of a dinner. These super early bird tickets have sold out, but hop on now to grab an early bird ticket at innovatingadvice.com/HUM for Humans Under Management.
I want us to take this human advisor approach. Number one, I want us to be kinder, be better listeners to our clients, be servant leaders to our clients. I want us to open the door to people that are also overlooked and underserved, right? Because I think that sometimes it takes those people to share the message of all the good work that advisors are doing. So if we can do those things, I think that our industry has unlimited potential to be better for the people that we need to cater to.
Welcome to episode 56 of the Innovating Advice Show. I'm joined by Dasarte Yarnway, founder and managing director of Berknell Financial Group, which he started at age 24, and which quickly became one of the most notable millennial-led financial services organizations in the U.S. A true thought leader, entrepreneur, and inspiration for this generation, Dasarte shares the powerful story behind his Onward to Greatness brand. We discuss how he's structured Berknell with 3 distinct client groups to serve clients at every stage, including traditionally overlooked and underserved people. And we chat about the 3 books he's written, his podcast, weekly blog, and how he's working towards quadrupling the number of households that Berknell serves. May we all follow Dasarte's lead and keep being human and moving onward to greatness. Links, show notes, and timestamps at innovatingadvice.com or directly through the link below. You're listening to the Innovating Advice Show, and I'm your host, Kate Holmes, bringing you the global pulse on financial services innovation, featuring financial planners, financial advisors, and related professionals from all corners of the globe. Let's dive in. Hi, Dasarte. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And I also wanted to thank you for being on the 24-hour global commute. You were a fantastic guest. I believe that was during hour 11. I was still coherent then, but We've gotten lots of great feedback from you being on there and inspiring listeners all over the world. And I'm so happy to have you here to expand that conversation.
Absolutely. That was a great experience. Like just being there, hearing the different kind of accents, right? It was worth it, right? And it seemed like the audience was super warm and friendly. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on that show.
Yeah, well, I love that you point out the accents, because that was actually how I came up with the podcast. Was actually a CFP Board's diversity summit last year. Mm-hmm. And I was looking around the room and I loved seeing the diversity, racial diversity, gender diversity, you name it.
Yeah.
But the fact that I've worked in, 35 countries around the world, and to me, if I hear American accents for too long, I'm like, I need to go travel. I just spend all my time talking with people around the world. And so I looked around the room, I was like, you know what we're missing here? We're missing accents.
That's a cool story.
Yeah. So it was fun. I'm with you. I love hearing those accents all day long.
For sure.
So, Dasarte, I have a huge appreciation for everything you've built, for the impact you are making in so many people's lives. And honestly, Dasarte, you just ooze goodness and transparency and inspiration. And I follow you on Twitter, and I've been seeing you post Onward. And then I finally saw you have launched this Onward to Greatness brand. And you have an amazing story behind it all. And I'd love to start there.
Onward to Greatness. I mean, how far do you want to go back? For me, my parents they're from Liberia, West Africa, which is a small country about the size of Rhode Island here in the United States.
Wow.
It has 4 million inhabitants, and it's gone through 2 civil wars, right? So my mom was born on a rubber plantation called the Firestone Plantation. My dad in a small county, a big county, but a small village in Nimba County is what the name of the county is in that country. It's in the northeastern tip of the country. And they both came to the United States before the first rights riot of 1978, 79. So I think I channel that energy, right? To say that no matter what the obstacle is, I'm going to continue to press onward to greatness. Now, this kind of onward to greatness phrase or war chant actually came from an injury that I had when I played American football. So I played football at the University of California, Berkeley, which is a good school for academics, right? A rigorous school for academics. And I hurt my knee. I tore my ACL. So in 2009, prior to going into surgery, I was just kind of thinking about my life, thinking about getting to this point. And I remember writing Onward to Greatness back then on Facebook.
Wow.
And to me, that meant that no matter what the obstacle was, here I was, maybe like 17, 18, about to go into an ACL surgery for 8 hours. And I thought to myself that no matter what the obstacle was, whether that was on the football field, in academics, or just in life, I was going to commit to being the best that I could be. And since then, it's been my war chant. It's this moniker that pushes me on, that helps me to like be aware of the small victories when I'm down and smell the roses when I have those big victories, right? So I just wanted to make sure that I was kind of giving that to people who subscribe to my messaging, right? And the work that we're doing here at Berknell Financial Group.
And it's so powerful because when I started reading into it and looking into it, like I've kind of been chanting that to myself, and I've linked to, you did a blog post on it and a podcast. I've linked to that in the show notes, but part of it was you've got these 10 sort of lessons you've learned on the battlefield. And honestly, I got goosebumps reading those. So you go into detail in those things I've, in the podcast and blog post, but can you just share what those 10 lessons are?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of them, but some that stick out to me, in which I think is really pertinent for our industry at this time, is push-pull. I think that was like number 9 or 8. Yeah. And that was just saying that you have a responsibility as you go onward to greatness to push those who are ahead of you to be the best that they can be, but also trailblaze a path and pull those who are behind you to come through the door, right? And in this age in which we talk about diversity and inclusion and just making people feel like they belong, I think that's an important point within the onward to greatness. Another one that I would say is that delay does not mean denied. And I think it's important for planners everywhere, right? Like if you're just starting your business or if you're onward to a goal, right? Just because it's taking a little longer than you might anticipate doesn't mean that you're denied of that goal, of that destination. And that's what I've learned on the battlefield, right? So it might not come in the time frame or the time horizon, as we like to say in the industry, that I might have liked, right? But perfect timing sometimes mean that it's a little late. So those 2 stand out to me out of those 10, but all 10 are things that I've learned. All 10 are things that I think that are going to continue to develop as I grow in this industry. And I hope to continue to give those lessons to people as I grow.
Yeah. And I'd say if I can add one more, the one that really stuck out to me, and ironically, my lucky number is number 8. So it was number 8.
Nice.
You belong in every room, act like it.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. So for me, I remember being in school and kind of interning at a lot of places. And I remember being in a room. And this is when like the tech boom in the Bay Area began to, again, I'm from San Francisco, Silicon Valley. It began to just skyrocket, right? And I'm in a room as an intern, and I'm like the only young African man in the room. And I'm super young, and these dudes are old. And I'm like almost intimidated. And I remember texting my running back coach a picture of the room. And he texted me back like, "I'm so proud of you. You belong there."
Yes.
And that gave me the confidence to just say like, hey, I do belong here. I am competent enough. I can speak with these people no matter the age, race, dollar amount in their accounts. Like I'm capable, right? And I think that sometimes as we look at challenges or we look at our businesses, we feel like, man, we might be too small in this big world of finance, right? But no, you belong in every room. You belong across the table from your clients. And if you believe that, you'll be able to really make impact.
Yeah. I love that, Dasarte. So being young, you did not let that stop you. You went ahead and started Berknell Financial Group at the ripe old age of 24. So share with us what your journey was to getting there.
Yeah. So after school. So after college, I actually, I chose not to come back for my 5th year to play football. And I said, hey, I'm going to start my career. I had gone through 3 surgeries by the time I was a senior at school, 2 on my knee, 1 on my foot. And I'm like, hey, I think that I can make it in anything that I touch. So let me try. So like I applied to literally every kind of job, sales, marketing, tech, medical, in the medical space, right? And finance. And I got a call back from the largest RIA pretty much in the country. They said that we like your narrative. We want to fly you here for an interview. So they flew me out, did the interview, and I got the job, right? So a young guy, I was like 20 when I graduated, maybe turning 21. I thought I made it, right? I had a great salary. I'm like, yes, this is why my mom came from Africa, so I can be successful, right? And when I got there, what I saw was that we missed the memo. And when I say we, I'm talking about a demographic of people that are overlooked and underserved. So this doesn't necessarily mean that it's a race, but it means like our industry caters to this group of high net worth individuals. But there's a whole demographic of us that need this service so we can change the financial trajectory of our family, right? For generations to come. So at that moment, after dealing with these accounts that were well into the 7, 8, 9 figures, I made it my choice, and I charged myself with the responsibility to be sort of like a Robin Hood, if you will, to take this memo from the rich and give it to the people who I thought needed it the most. And then I set out on my journey. So that was an independent firm, RIA. Then I went to a brokerage. I did really well there. And then I was appointed as the youngest vice president of wealth management at a bank on Wall Street. So I'm going back and forth between New York and Washington, D.C. So here I'm like at, quote unquote, like a higher position, right? A more senior position. I'm young. I'm leading this bank. I'm managing, 100 million plus in assets. And I'm like not satisfied, right? Mm-hmm. I had a big family event. I lost my brother that year. And I was just thinking to myself like, hey, we have one shot at this thing called life, right? So if you don't do the things that you want to do that are going to fulfill you, that are going to bring you joy, that are going to allow you to pour into the people and places and the things that you care most about, then you've wasted your shot, So yeah. I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was September 14th, 2015. I gave up my BlackBerry and my bank card to get in, right? The security card to get in. Uh-huh. And I made my way up to Baltimore, Maryland. And that's where I started. I incorporated Berknell Financial Group.
That's incredible. So what was your major in college?
I actually majored in business with an emphasis on project management. So I thought that I was going to build stadiums or something. I really wanted a close connection to like the game. And I knew that I wasn't going to be playing American football professionally, although I was slated to, but I kept getting hurt. So I was like, hey, how can I be a part of this and not hurt myself? Right? Yeah. And not hurt myself. So that was kind of the direction I thought. It seemed logical. I'm good with my hands, right? So I thought that was going to make sense. But here I am years later working with professional athletes from the standpoint of their personal finances, right? So it all came full circle.
That's awesome. So it wasn't like you specifically targeted financial service. Like you said, you were applying to everything.
Oh, yeah, everything. I just wanted a shot. And I think that's what Onward to Greatness kind of is, right? It's a sense that no matter what the opportunity is, I'm going to show you that I'll be great in that opportunity. It's a war chant that is inspiring excellence within its believers, right? And encouraging them to be the best that they can be. So that's what it stands for.
Yeah. Well, and just touching on that. So I've linked to the Onward to Greatness website, and you've got merchandise. You've got these great t-shirts, and, I'm seeing on Twitter, lots of people are buying them. They're taking pictures in them. And, what a great time in life. I mean, honestly, any time in history, but just seeing people wearing shirts that say Onward or Onward to Greatness right now is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've always considered myself a creative first. In this industry, finance is just an avenue in which I get to express that creativity. So whether that's the books that I write, the blog, my podcast, right, or Onward to Greatness, this is my mind. These are pieces of my mind just spinning, right, to say like, hey, this would be a cool idea. Let me see if we can bring it to life. So I really enjoy the process of bringing an idea from seed to tree. And I think if you look at sort of how we've constructed our firm, you can see the seeds of that creativity growing through our events or through our client groups and just how we serve our clients.
Well, and it's how you inspire others to do the same. So you are an investment news 40 under 40 this year. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very well deserved. And in the interview that they did with you, you mentioned that we are all agents of change and we all have an opportunity to change someone's life. And so you kind of did a call to action to anyone out there, hey, record that podcast, write that blog, get out there and take these things that are in your brain. And just like you're doing, like I said, with the books, with the podcast, with the blog, with the Onward merchandise, get out there and do it because you just don't know the impact that you can have on someone's life.
Absolutely. And I don't think at the time, when Berknell was created, I didn't think that I was going to be I didn't think I was going to be 40 under 40 by any means. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to just say, hey, I want to help people. And I think that there's a problem here, right? So how can we present a solution to help this demographic of people that need the help, that want the help, right? That want the partnership. So I think that by doing the things that we are thinking about, right, that are on our hearts, that can change a lot for someone, right? And if that's one person that you help, you've done a great job. Yeah. If you can help the masses, more power to you. But I think that was my intention. Like, how can I be a servant leader? And that's a word that I use a lot, right? Lead by serving. And I think that's going to be embedded in, my life, my career, for all of my days.
Yeah. So having your own firm now and all the things that you've done since then, do you think that has really helped you sort of tap into who you are and the impact that you can have versus, I hear from a lot of people that are in big companies that like you, they're like, hey, I've made it and I'm making great money, but they're constrained in the ways that they can actually, build their brand in a way that's impacting people.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely. So a firm does two things for you. Like, it proves who you are to yourself. Right. So if I say that I'm moving onward to greatness, if I say that I have a standard of excellence, having your own firm will quickly prove that you are or you are not that person, because you have to get up and set your own goals. You have to get up and do the work. You have to write the blog. You have to make sure that all of these pieces are moving in unison towards whatever goal that you set forth. Right. And a lot of people can't do that. They need the structure of working at a firm to operate. They need the pressure of a manager, right, to produce, right? So that's one thing. And I think that I've been just proud and kind of surprised in some ways of just the person I've evolved into and just the consistency put forth towards this effort. So that's one part of it. Now, number two is, of course, there's such a big emphasis on compliance in our industry. Yeah. Right? That it's a lot of censorship for the advisor. Like, you can say this, you can't say this. You can do this, you can't do that, right? Having your own firm allows you to write the story for your clients. You know that demographic's voice. You know how they talk. You know how they speak. You know what they're interested in. You know that people are people. And we have to be human advisors first to be able to reach any client, right? And sometimes our industry, there's a quote by Eminem Miles Mattingly, one of my good friends. He says that we get the math right and the people wrong, right? So having your own firm allows you to get the people right and talk to the people, right? And I think that's the biggest kind of draw for advisors.
Yeah. So, Dasarte, you have inspired so many people. Who has inspired you through all these years?
That's a good question. I would say this. John Rogers was a big motivation for why I created the firm. As I was doing my research, sometimes you just want to see if somebody's done it before. Like somebody like you, has this been done before? Or am I like the first person to ever try to do this, right? Because that would be scary. So John Rogers is the CEO of Ariel Investments. He started his firm in 1983. 1983 at the age of 24 years old. Wow. So as I'm doing my research, I'm like, in 1983, this African-American guy started his firm at 24 years old. That's me, right? And he's built this $1 billion mutual fund company in Chicago at that time. Wow. So I looked at it and I said, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And as I was in Washington, D.C. starting Berknell, he spoke at one of the Smithsonians and I was there and we got to talk. And I was like, this is it, right? Yes. I can do it. So that was a huge pivot for me to say like, hey, this has been done before. If he can, why not me?
I love it. So what can the industry do to inspire and welcome other people, especially those of other genders and people of color?
We're all human, right? So I think that we need to just have a heart for other humans, first and foremost. I think that while it's important that we run great businesses, we have to give people the opportunity to patronize them. It's easy for an advisor to say that I will only work with high net worth people, right? But in order to like help more people, which will lead to an even better business, you have to provide the client group, right, or the service to be able to do so. And I think if we do both of those things, be human, number one, right, you'll see that people will gravitate to the industry. A lot of times people are just scared, like they don't like people like me, or I'll have a hard time being in this industry. So we have to be human. And then number two, provide these services and opportunity for people of different races, asset classes, and networks to get and patronize these services.
Yes, I want to touch on both of those things. So first of all, what does it look like to be human to you?
To be human, first and foremost, means to be a listener, right? And to have empathy. I don't understand the struggles of everyone, but I understand I've had struggles, right? So I think that for my clients, it's about listening to their deepest concerns. It's about trying to understand, right? And asking to fill in the knowledge gaps when they present themselves, right? I think that's a way, an approach for an advisor to be human. And I try to practice that on a daily. Yeah. It's not always easy, but I think that is something that we have to do to create the space and place for people to feel comfortable with doing work with us and working in the industry.
Well, and Dasarte, you just said asking to fill the knowledge gaps, which to me is a big difference from, hey, I'm an advisor, I'm just going to tell you everything that I know and impart my knowledge. That's a distinction.
Yeah, because we don't know what we don't know, right? Number one. And I think that it's supposed to be a deep relationship. Like, I hate even calling my clients. I call it the Berknell community, right? This is a relationship between community members, right? So if I don't know something, I need to ask you to say like, well, how did that make you feel? Help me to understand, right? And by you giving me this knowledge, I'll be able to pour back into you in a better way. So I'm not the type of, managing director or financial advisor that has all the answers for everything. And I'm willing to learn from my clients where necessary.
Yeah. Love that. And then speaking of kind of having different groups, so you're Berknell Financial Group, and you talked about having a community for your clients. So you've got 3 separate client groups. So talk us through how you came up with those.
Well, again, creating that space and place for people to want to work with us, right? And giving them that possibility. So we have 3 groups. We initially had 2, and this was since the onset of our firm. Our barbell strategy is what we used to call it. Was comprised of the private client group and the wealth bridge group. So the private client group is your traditional wealth management group. These are going to be high net worth individuals, right, that have complex needs for their financial planning, right? We knew that we would need that. I had clients from the past that were in that demographic, so I wanted to create the space and the pricing model that matched their needs and their complexity. Now, on the other end is this overlooked and underserved group, right? We call this the wealth bridge group. Now, the wealth bridge group is comprised of young professionals, growing families, or people that just might have started too late, right? They might not have that 7-figure account, but they need the service, right? They need to get a foothold on tax planning, financial planning, investment management, and estate planning. And pretty much what we've done is we've wrapped these services in different tiers, bronze, gold, and silver, to say, hey, we want to meet your needs, pay on a retainer, and we'll make sure that we get all of this done using our team of professionals. So for me, super excited about that group because we believe that our duty here as it pertains to helping people accumulate multi-generational wealth and successfully transfer that wealth is to help be that bridge for them, right? We want them to bridge themselves over from wealth bridge into the private client group. And the closer that we move that needle, right, we feel like we're doing both parties a service.
Well, and I love the simplicity of the 3 tiers. As a lot of advisors are moving to the annual retainer model, they're
Yeah.
thinking, how can I break this out? And people have different needs. And you've kind of boiled it down into the most simplicity there is, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that in some ways we have, so how we boil it down, right, is based on what your needs are. Number one, like, what do you need? Investment management, financial planning. Do you need tax services, right? That'll be like a tier up. How often do you want to meet, right? So some people are like, hey, I need to meet you semi-annually. That's our bronze. I need to meet you quarterly. That's our silver. And then you have some clients that need to meet often, right? They need that accountability. So we'll set up a Zoom call every month. That's our gold package, right? So it's a combination of your needs plus the frequency of which you'd like to meet. And I think that having this system where clients can say, hey, this is what I want to do. This fits me. I think this is the service that I need. Opens up the door, right, for a good relationship.
And then do you sort of have a conversation with them annually on whether they need to move tiers? Because sometimes people are going to move up in complexity and sometimes they'll move down.
For sure. And that's exactly what the annual review is for. So all advisors should be doing that. But as we have our annual review, we're saying like, hey, you're having kids, you're growing a family, right? You might want to up the level of, service that you're getting here. Right. And we're super honest and transparent with our clients. Sometimes folks will come in and say, hey, I need gold. And I'm like, you know what? You'll probably just need silver for now. Save that money. Right. We can redirect this to fund your goals. Right. So again, we're on their team. It's a community first. And if you value community and village, like, the place where my dad was born, my mom was born, then you'll see that you're going to do whatever it takes for the greater good of that community.
Yeah. And I've heard you say that you want to quadruple the number of households that you serve. So what's your expansion strategy for doing that? And do you have a target timeline?
I don't have a time. I should probably make a timeline. That's a good point. But what I want to do is invite community members to invite other friends and family, right? And people that they think would be fit for the Berknell community. So we recently rolled out an event called the Berknell Town Hall. And the Berknell Town Hall is an interactive live event via Zoom in which my community members can hear a subject matter expert talk to them directly. So it's exclusive and private for them. I invite them. I don't send any other invites, right? I don't call anybody else. And they invite people that they feel like would be great for our community. So last month we had over 50 households, right, attend the Berknell Town Hall. Next month we have Justin Forsett, who's a former NFL player, now CEO of a brand called Hustle Clean. It's in Target, Amazon. He was on Shark Tank, right? And he's talking directly to my clients. So we want to give the community ownership of the community. And I think that is the growth strategy, to say, hey, well, this is your community. I'm here to serve you guys. And together we'll grow. So in that community, are they talking with each other as well? And are you connecting people when they have different needs? We see so much about maintaining privacy for clients and making sure that nobody knows who anybody else is. But there's so much power in doing what you're doing and bringing that community together. Well, to that point, when you're doing good for people, what is there to hide? I have nothing to hide. I'm talking to everybody in the same way. I'm serving everybody in the same way. Nobody's going to be like, well, he does this for me and he does this for, he doesn't do that for me. Everybody's getting the same service. So there's nothing to hide on that front. And two, yes, my clients are working with each other. If there's a real estate agent and somebody's looking for a house, I will connect them, or they already know each other. So it's just a beautiful thing to see that you can create something that can grow beyond yourself and your vision, right?
And then it's a great way to get those referrals in a way that you're not directly asking for referrals. You're not doing anything pushy. It happens organically.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a compliment when a client can say, well, I value this community so much. I would want somebody that I care about to be a part of it, right? So that's been one of the biggest compliments that I've been able to receive from my community.
And did you used to do these town halls in person, or has it always been virtual, or has it started since the pandemic?
So that's interesting because when I created the Berknell Wealth Bridge Group, right, on the initial flyer, I had like 10 bullet points of what a person would receive from paying this annual retainer. And one of the last bullet points was free access to all Berknell Financial Group events. right? So that was always kind of the mind frame that I was thinking in. The first event was like a book launch party that I had when I wrote Young Money, 4 Proven Actions to Design Your Wealth, right? And my idea about this fireside chat was that Berknell clients would be in the front row, right? They would get free copies of the book, and they would get this, like, we're part of this community treatment, right? Yeah. They would get like this little card, like Costco, when you walk into Costco, you're a member. Awesome. So I think that was always at the forefront of my, idea. Now that we're with Zoom and I have clients on both coasts of the United States, it makes sense to do a lot of these events virtually.
And then it's convenient for people. So I love that you're kind of looking at what makes sense. And so it's not something that involves a whole lot of cost. You don't have to rent out a space. You don't have to do catering. You're just leveraging meeting people where they're at right now.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So Dasarte, you've done a lot in the 4.5 years since you started Berknell, which is impressive. As I was reading everything, I was like, okay, I just started innovating advice earlier this year. I was like, so I've got 4 years to also write some books. I've got my podcast. You're my bar now. You're my onward to greatness. So
that's a compliment. Thank you.
So you first published Dating Benji, which is on a fantastic title, straight talk on improving your relationship with money. So where did that idea come from? Have you always wanted to write a book?
No, it's funny. I was a kid once and my sister was into books, right? And we went to this store, which is called the Marcus Bookstore. It was in the Fillmore district of San Francisco. And this district was known to be the Harlem of the West Coast. Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, it was the place where pretty much the Renaissance happened, right? Art, jazz. They still have the Fillmore Jazz Festival to this day. I'm a huge music person, right? So as my sister and I, we go into this bookstore, this lady, she was like enchanting. She had like on a cloak and like everything. She just looked at me for 5 minutes and was like, hey, you like to write, don't you? And I'm a little kid, my eyes are big. And I'm like, I do. You're going to be good. Continue to write, and it's going to take you far. So that memory sticks out to me. Wow. In terms of like the beginning of, when I started writing. Now, my mom worked night shifts, so I wouldn't see her. It was like 2 shifts passing in the night for a portion of my childhood. And I would write to her to say like, hey, well, you wanted me to take the trash out. I did that. Why did you get mad? That's how we kind of communicated, right? When I was a young boy. And that's just followed me. So this writing thing has always been something that I've done, and I don't see as painful. When it came to Dating Benji, my clients began to expose their money personalities. Steve Harvey wrote a book called Think Like a Man, straight talk on improving your relationship. So I said, hey, I'm going to take this concept and talk about money, right? Yeah. Dating Benji. Benjamin is $100 bill in the United States, right? Yeah. And I said, hey, everybody is dating Benji. Everybody has a relationship with money. Let's talk about that. And that was the how the idea started. And I used that book as my business card in 2016 as I began to grow Berknell.
So would you recommend to other advisors that are starting businesses and enjoy writing that is a good strategy for helping to get the word out there and raise awareness?
You hit the nail on the head. I would advise advisors. I would tell advisors to lean into what they already like to do. As you can see, that writing was just a part of my childhood. It's something that I don't consider painful. But if you like to talk, consider picking up Anchor and recording a 5-minute podcast, right? So you can get used to the cadence of your voice. Yeah. If you like to write a 250-word essay, right, on something that you enjoy doing for your clients, right? And keep it for yourself. Get used to that. Get used to reading your own words. Get used to the placement of the periods and the commas. Get used to hearing your voice. And if you find the things that you already like to do, you can literally build a marketing or an outreach strategy based on that. And I think that's where advisors should start.
Yeah. And you kept going from there. So then you wrote another book, Young Money, in 2018, which then I believe it spurred the Young Money podcast.
Absolutely. So Young Money, it was interesting because Dating Benji broke top 100 on Amazon.
Awesome.
And I self-published the book. So like when you think about finance books, there are a couple names that kind of hold down the top 50 spots. These are going to be Tony Robbins, Susie Orman, right? Dave Ramsey. They have just different variations of their books are 1 through 50.
Yeah.
So Dating Benji came in at 84. So now publishers, I don't know if they have like some back end system, they began to reach out to me and say, hey, like how did you do this? And I'm like, I tweeted it. I Facebook, I talked about it to my community, and I got a deal with Berknell Publishers, and we wrote Young Money, 4 proven actions, really trying to simplify how to grow your wealth. 4 proven actions to design your wealth while you still can. And that just means using your biggest asset as a young person, which is time, to your advantage, right? And it's been an incredible journey with Young Money. As you said, the Young Money podcast was created based on that book. And to this day, we have a host of listeners that are tuned in every week.
That's awesome. So Dasarte, what's next for you?
It's a good question. At this point, I'm really just trying to, continue to pour into the community. My mind is always moving at 100 miles per hour. What I do is I kind of let ideas float in and out, and the ones that stick longer than the others are the ones that I decide to lean into. But as of right now, just staying safe, staying sanitized, and pouring into my community.
Yeah. And how would you like to see the profession continue to evolve?
I want us to take this human advisor approach. Number one, I want us to be kinder, be better listeners to our clients, be servant leaders to our clients. I want us to open the door to people in places that are also overlooked and underserved, right? Because I think that sometimes it takes those people to share the message of all the good work that advisors are doing. So if we can do those things, I think that our industry has unlimited potential to be better for the people that we need to cater to.
Yeah. I love it. Sorry, so much goodness just coming out of you. Like I said, it radiates off of you. I so appreciate you. I appreciate who you are, what you're doing, what you're building, everything that you stand for. And I have so enjoyed this conversation, having you on this show. And like I said, continuing that conversation from the global 24-hour commute. Any final thoughts?
Not many final thoughts. Thank you for having me. I just want to say that I appreciate you for giving me this platform, right? To just talk about the things that we've done. I love your show, number one. So I look forward to listening to more episodes and continuing our professional relationship. Thanks again.
Yeah. And I would encourage people to check out Onward merch as well. Get one of those shirts. I believe you do ship internationally also, right?
Yep, we do.
Okay. Let's get it going global.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Onward to greatness.
Thanks, Dasarte.
Talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the Innovating Advice Show. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and shoot me a thought or two. Link to my profile is right below. Stay safe, stay well, and I look forward to hearing from you.